Hi, and welcome to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm your host, Dawn Davis, and this is episode number 13. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, I really appreciate you coming back. If you'd like to learn more about our guests or catch up on episodes you might have missed, you can find that all at the website desertladydiaries.com. Last week's guest, Melanie Buck, was about to give birth to her little boy, and guess what? It happened on October 20th at 4:10 p.m. Joe Claude came into the world at 6 pounds 9 ounces and 17 inches long, so we congratulate Melanie and her husband Buck on their newest addition. This week's guest is Carly Valentine, another Jersey girl making her life in the desert. Carly talks about how at age 15, she and her mother and grandmother took a trip to the Grand Canyon, and she's been searching for her desert ever since. She found it 2 years ago here in the Joshua Tree area, and she's also going to talk about an inspiring new project that she's taken on. Hi there, and welcome back to Desert Lady Diaries. This week, my guest is Carly Valentine. She is a photographer of portraits and events. She is also the catalyst for Daughters of the Desert, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And she also does wedding photography through her business Sage and Swan. She was originally born in Jersey and is currently a resident of 29 Palms. She's been dreaming of the desert for a long time, and now she feels she's home. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm thrilled to have you here. Let's start as we usually do with every guest. Tell me about your first encounter with the desert.
So the first time that I came out here, I was in Morongo Valley, and I was staying with Sherry Elf in her Airstream.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so cute. And I felt so lucky to know her. And I had never heard of Joshua Tree. And one morning, Sherry asked if I had gone up into town, and she was telling me about Art Queen and that I should go see her spot. And I said I hadn't been yet. And she's like, "Are you kidding me? Go up that hill."
That's funny.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a really magical experience seeing it with her the first time.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what brought you to her place in Morongo Valley?
Airbnb.
Wow. So you just decided, I'm going to take a trip to California and I'm going to go to Morongo Valley and this is where the Airbnb is, and that's that.
Well, actually, a little bit embarrassing. I came out for Coachella.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was your vehicle in, that was the way it was supposed to happen. So that's cool. Talk to me about then the process of falling in love, for lack of a better term, with a place and making the decision to come out. How did that all happen?
I had been dreaming of the desert since I was like 15 when my mom and my grandmom took me out to see the Grand Canyon, and it really stuck with me. And so I'd been searching for the right desert for the past 5 years. Then I just found this one and fell in love with it. There's something about this community, really. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before.
Right. I agree. That was a lot of what attracted me. I came out for the first time and there was just some feeling that I had about the place. And then as I continued to do research online, came across different people's websites and different information, I thought, wow, this is really a place that I feel like I will fit in and really enjoy.
Yeah.
So speaking of community, did you know anybody besides Sherry when you moved?
No.
Isn't that funny how we all do that?
Yeah.
So what kind of things did you do to get involved or meet people, or how did you meet people?
I just started going out all the time to shows. I really can't remember like the order of how I made friends, but you see the same people at the same events if you go to like...
Right.
But the Beatnik was one of the first places that I started hanging out, and it was the first time that I showed my work in a really long time, and that felt really good. And Deb was really instrumental in making that happen.
Yeah, she's very cool.
Yeah, she pushed me to do that, and I was so grateful for that. And yeah, just almost every night I went out.
I think that's a misnomer. People think out here is so desolate, and you certainly can be isolated if you want to be, but there's plenty to do. Somebody posted the other day, I think it was Dorothy Etz, something about, I looked at my Facebook events and there's 30 things this week in Joshua Tree.
She says, it's right. Really cool, but it's really hard. Yeah. and most of the time it's hard too, because many of the people that are involved in those events, and it's kind of trying to decide, logistically, can I make it to 2 or 3? Yeah. Physically and mentally, can I handle that? Or do I just want to stay home and be quiet? Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have all of those options. So you're currently working on a project called Daughters of the Desert. Talk to me about your inspiration for that and how that all started.
I don't know. I've known for a long time that there was a big portrait project coming. I really don't know where that information came from, but I just started storing film, and I knew it was going to be with my view camera, and so I put it away for a couple of years, knowing I was going to be revisiting it. And then I came out here, and like I said, I fell in love with this community, and I wanted to know more about everyone. And my friend Sarah Beth and I were at an event one night, and we were just talking about how inspired we were by women in the area, and how we hate that we only see each other in passing at these events, and that there's no space to gather and do work together. And so we were talking about the need for a women's collective and how could we make that happen. And I said, well, I think that a great way to introduce everyone would be to start this portrait project that I've been thinking about since I moved out here. So I just started, and that's not true. I wrote the artist statement, and I created the Facebook group, and I wrote a list of who I thought would want to be involved, and it all just kind of sat there for a while. And then I told Anna Olivia about my idea, and she was like, get up, let's go. And we went to the park. We were racing the light, and right as the sun went down, I took her picture, and it felt so good to start.
That's awesome.
When I got that film back, I just cried. It was so...
And it's a beautiful shot. There is a website, so if you're listening and you'd like to go out and check that out, it's daughtersofthedesert.com, and all of the information is out there to check out. There was a potluck where everybody kind of gathered and met for the first time. How was that experience? I was actually sad to miss that because I was visiting Portland that weekend, but I know I'll be at the next one, which is actually coming up on November 5th. Okay, great. So talk to me about how that all came together, because Terry allowed you to use the space at Taylor Junction, and how did that all come to fruition?
Just through shooting, everyone that I talked to just kept saying, when are we going to get together? I want to meet everyone. I keep seeing all these pictures on the Instagram account, and people that I don't know and I want to know. And so, when it got to the point where I couldn't do the work on my own anymore, because shooting this is a full-time thing. Sure. And then once working on the nonprofit status started coming in, and just the behind the scenes things, and Linda appeared in my life, and she's a godsend. She's been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and I'm so grateful to her. And
I think we follow each other on Instagram, and I haven't met. See, that's how that goes. We all follow each other on Instagram. We love each other's work, and we need a place to meet. So I look forward to meeting Berlinda at the potluck.
She's amazing. And then Sue B called me up one day, and she said, you can't do this all on your own. You're going to burn out, and I'm going to help you before that happens. And so Sue B and Linda and I started meeting up, and we decided that we were going to do the meeting, and it was really, really good.
Yeah, the photos are amazing. It looks like it, and everybody is just so behind it and so into it, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, it's very nice to feel that we're all working toward the same thing.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about what that vision looks like, since I wasn't at the potluck, and for maybe somebody else who wasn't or is just hearing about this collective. What is the vision for that group?
The end goal is to have a building for a women's collective, and so we've been talking about fundraising event ideas, and a lot of people came up with some on their own, which is really, really good. And we're talking about merchandise, and having the show be a traveling thing, and breaking it down into 3 parts, and doing it all at Taylor Junction so that we can spread it out and have more fundraising opportunities. And
so the goal of taking the photos then is to have them exhibited, and then people would come to the exhibit and just see them all.
Yeah, I had this vision of, I really want everyone to just feel the power behind the images and look around and say, these are the women in my community, and I love them, and I support them, and I want them to succeed, and see what they're capable of together. And so I think that yeah, the imagery is it's gonna make it very clear.
For sure. Well, I look forward to something like that because I think that there are so many creative people doing really great work, whether it's socially with our folks on Indivisible and what they're doing, whether it's people that are taking photography, whether it's people that are painting, people that are creating audio-visual work. There's just so much opportunity for that here. And I think that, I don't know, I would imagine you agree that the space and time here really allow for that to happen. You have time to get inspired. You have imagery to inspire you. What is that process like for you as you work through this photography or other projects that you're working on?
I don't know, really. I'm not really paying attention to any other source of inspiration except what happens in the conversations that I have while I'm shooting. I mean, really, the stories that the women share with me are what propel me forward. And I mean, most people choose their location, and it's a place that's significant to them, and just, I'm so in awe of the way that people have just been really vulnerable and opened themselves up, and it's, yeah.
There's a part of me that feels like this place will do that or allows for it more than maybe other places.
I could see that.
Yeah, definitely. How did you decide to get into photography?
Well, my family has a fire investigation business, and I started shooting for my dad when I was probably 16.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember there was this scene that we were on where there was a burned piano, and the keys were covered in soot, and the music paper was like curled forward, and I thought it was just so beautiful, and I couldn't stop shooting it. And yeah, I mean, there were like fingerprints on the keys where they were revealed in the soot, and I kept thinking about how that person came back to their burned home, and that was like one of the first things that they wanted to do was. And so anyway, I couldn't stop shooting it, and my dad said that's not helpful. That's not part of the, what are you doing? Like, that's not part of the fire pattern. And then after that day, he said, maybe you should think about this as like pursuing it and see where it takes you, maybe as an art form. So I traveled for a while, and everywhere I went, I would go to a museum. And that was the first time that I saw photography as a fine art form, and I was really moved by it. And it was the work of Joseph Sudek, actually, that did it for me. And then I came back home, and I went to school for it.
Amazing. For those of you who don't know, I actually participated in Carly's project today. We went out to the park and we shot a couple of shots, and you have a really interesting camera that I'd never seen before. And I actually saw you using it at Pappy's with a little round circular thing. Yeah. Tell me about the equipment.
So the camera is a view camera. It's a large format camera, and the negative is a 4x5.
4 foot by 5 foot, or 4 inch by 5 inch.
Yeah.
Okay. That'd be a big gallery for all these photos. It would go on for days.
It is really incredible to see a negative that large, though, and the detail in it.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that camera so much. It's just so hands-on, and it requires a lot of patience that I normally don't have. I bought it back in school for what they were calling a special topics class, which is basically like an elective, and I just kept using it as often as I could. I did my whole grad show with it. And
wow.
Yeah, so
that's
it's
great.
really nice to return to it.
Yeah.
And I love my favorite part about it is that I don't have to block my face with the camera. I can step away from it and have an interaction with the person I'm shooting and create that moment.
Right. Yeah, that's nice. It kind of reminded me when we were out there of, you know, those old-timey photos that were taken when they would hold the flashbulb over to the right, and then, you know, they had their cape like over their heads, then they were looking through the lens and stuff like that, because it is on that tripod and everything. And it just reminded me of that. And it was cool to have a sense of time, different time with that today. I don't know, there was something about it that I felt like I was one of these, you know, ladies that came out here in the late 1800s getting your portrait taken. So that was fun. Cool. So out here, besides working on this Daughters of the Desert project, what other kind of projects have you been working on? You have a vintage business or something, right?
I don't know about that, but yeah, I do a lot of side things. The vintage thing is like, I love thrifting, and so I travel for work a lot for wedding photography. I just start buying while I'm there, and I was shipping it back and giving a lot of it to Kimmy. And then when she just like cleaned out her store and she was like reorganizing and stuff, I didn't want to like clutter it up again. So, so I just kind of held on to some things. And then the Sweet Spot started doing the Mohawk market. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I could just do it myself. And which is really fun because I get to see everyone light up when they find their piece.
Right.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, that's cool. I imagine at some point they did a Sunday afternoon market here where the farmers market typically is on Saturday. I thought that they were going to start that back up in the fall. I'm not sure, but would that be another place that you might consider doing it, or is it just too much to haul that stuff around and set it up?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy just doing it
there at the Sweet Spot. Yeah. That's good. It is. I did crafting for a long time, like made handmade cards and things like that. Oh, nice. And you go and you get your 8x10 spot and you set up your table and you haul everything in. It is a bit of it's a lot of work. Yeah. And you might not even sell anything that day. So that was kind of, you just had to enjoy the company and seeing people and putting your stuff out there and hoping the right person connects with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
it's just something that I do for fun and that it benefits me sometimes, and that's cool.
Any other photography projects? How do people find you for the wedding photography? Do they just find you online? Do you get recommendations from other people that have used you before?
Yeah, a lot of it's referrals. So we're Sage and Swan, and my partner is Tiffany Truelove, and she is in Pennsylvania, so she handles everything there, and then I handle everything here, and we fly back and forth to each other.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. She was my second shooter for a couple of years, and when I decided to close my studio out there and come out, I asked her to be my partner in this, and she said yeah. So
nice. So you've got a bi-coastal business. You're doing this Daughters of the Desert thing. Was there anything when you moved out here permanently that surprised you or you weren't expecting?
I'm not surprised by. I'm grateful for how the desert has made me softer. I always say that there's like an East Coast attitude, and I mean, I still have some of that.
I can relate. We're both from that Jersey. What are you talking about? Oh my God. Yeah, there is a hardness, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that I experienced too with coming out here for the first time was I noticed that people stop you on the street and ask how your day is, and they genuinely care about what the answer is. I was shocked by that. Yeah, so it's definitely opened my heart a lot more, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I actually met somebody else from Jersey, and it turned out she was from the same town that I lived in, the last town I lived in before I left New Jersey. And I met her up at Copper Mountain Mesa. Wow. And I asked her where she was from, and she goes, oh, you probably never heard of it. And I said, oh, I used to live there. She's like, no, you didn't. I said, yeah, I did. Yeah, so you just never know who you're going to run into out here.
Yeah, one of the security guards up at Pappy's, he's from my town.
Are you kidding? That is so funny. See?
Yeah.
It's true. If someone came to you and said, I'm interested in moving out to the desert, what would be some of the things that you might say to them that they should prepare for, or that you would suggest that they do?
Yeah, I wouldn't give them any warnings, I don't think. I mean, I have friends come out to visit from the East Coast, and they love humoring the idea of coming out here. I'm just like, yes, do it. Like, you don't even understand the magic that you will experience out here. I really don't think that there's any warnings to give anyone.
Just come and see if you fit in or not. I think we talked about it a little earlier today, that saying about the desert will either embrace you or spit you out.
Yeah, I think it's about coming with the right intentions. And there is such a thing as being called to the desert. I hear that so often throughout the project.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I had that too. Yeah, I mean, it's a rough landscape. It's trying to kill us all the time.
Right. Between the predators and the, dryness and the cactus pricks and all that stuff. Yeah.
But if you let it, it'll give you the healing that you need.
That's true.
Or didn't even know that you need.
Right. I think that's probably a really good point, that you don't even know it until you get here.
Yeah.
Coming here, and now you've been here how many years? 2 years?
Almost, yeah. In January.
Almost 2 years. 2 years. You feel like you found enough here to keep you here. This is the last stop. on the Carly Valentine train?
I mean, I still dream of New Mexico. That's one of my favorite states. I would like to experience that at some point. But yeah, I'm not putting a timeline on anything really. I plan to like stick with the collective and make sure that that succeeds and is solid. So that's my main focus right now. I'm not really thinking too far ahead of that.
Right. How much longer do you think that you'll be taking photos, and do you have a plan yet for once I get X number of photos, I'm going to start putting together a plan to have a showing, or will there be different ones? Because I think there are about over 150 ladies, if I'm not mistaken, that are even in the group or getting ready to get their pictures taken or have already had them taken.
Yeah, I'm surprised by the growing number, and I need to check that. It's been a while since I did that. But since I established the website, people can book online, and so there's new people signing up all the time that I didn't even know were interested in the project. So that's really
cool.
Exciting.
Yeah.
I'm not putting a cap on it because I feel like the majority of people who have social media have found out, and word of mouth is happening now and reaching the elders, and I care so much about them being involved in it. So I'm just waiting until it just fades out on its own, I guess.
Right.
I feel like it'll just present that information.
Right. When it's ready.
Yeah.
It's ready. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then I want to thank you for sharing some of those photos that you got back. Carly was kind enough to show me some of the ones that she's gotten back, and I love that what you said about the elders, because I think those were the ones I reacted to the most when I looked at them. The other ones were beautiful and they had great ideas and inspiration, but it's those mature faces that have seen a lot of life, and what they are bringing to those photographs is really cool. So I love hearing that. A lot of character lines and all that. There's so much there with those ladies, so that's great. When I started this podcast, initially it was going to be kind of a blog, and it wasn't necessarily about desert women, but it was about women in general. And there were so many things that I began to realize that I wish I'd known or thought about differently when I was younger. So I reached out to my 17-year-old niece and asked her to send me some questions about some things that she might want answers to. And would you like to pick one of those questions and give her an answer? We'll just have you pick one out, and if you would read it out loud so everybody knows what the question is, that would be awesome.
Okay. Is there a good way to keep strong relationships with friends from high school carried into adulthood? I mean, I have my friends on the East Coast. The majority of them I've been friends with since grade school, and we always joke about how it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, we all grew into very different people, but we just have so much love for each other, and we still continue to learn from each other. And yeah, I don't really know what the strategy was in making those relationships work. I think that it's just having love and respect for each other and allowing each other to grow in the ways that you're supposed to, and celebrating that. It's really, it's about celebrating that.
And supporting and encouraging. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we've talked about Daughters of the Desert, and that the next meet and greet potluck event will be November 5th.
Yes.
And is it also going to be at Taylor Junction? Or are you working on a different not a menu. We bring the menu. The menu's varied. A different venue.
I mean, Terry was wonderful on hosting the first time, and I don't want to keep relying on the same people all the time.
Gotcha.
So it was supposed to be at the Sweet Spot, but we have since outgrown that. So I think that there's 80 RSVPs and 30 maybes. Yeah, I'm currently hunting for a new venue. I have a couple leads. If you follow the Instagram account, then it'll be announced there.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you would like to see some of Carly's work, you can go to carlyvalentinephotography.com. You can also take a look at the project, Daughters of the Desert, at daughtersofthedesert.com. And then the wedding photo is sageandswanphoto.com. So you can book Carly to do that, or portraits.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, great. Well, I loved shooting with you today.
Oh,
that was so much fun. I think we stumbled upon a great location.
Yes.
And I can't wait, of course, to see the photo. And I can't wait to see the rest of these ladies on November 5th and see how this all starts to come together. And I think it's really, really an exciting project.
So
thank
glad
you.
You'll be there.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Thank you for participating.
Sure. And thank you for participating in the podcast.
My pleasure.
Carly's project is bringing so many women together to encourage and support each other. It's really inspiring, and I was so grateful that she came on the podcast. If you check the show notes or the blog page on the website, you'll find links to Carly's photography website, also to Sage and Swan, and to Daughters of the Desert. I hope you'll go check those out. We also talked about Sherry Elf and Art Queen, which is a really cool place in Joshua Tree. I put a link up there from TripAdvisor so you can get an idea of what some people coming through the area think about that. And Carly mentioned she was inspired by the work of Joseph Sudek, so I put a link up there for him as well, so you can check him out and his work. Next week, my guest is Danielle Segura. She's the executive director of the Mojave Desert Land Trust. It's a pretty unique organization that works to conserve public lands. They also have an awesome outreach program, and they also have a Mojave seed bank and nursery. And if you just can't get enough desert, check out Desert Oracle Radio, hosted by Ken Lane. He's the editor of the print publication called Desert Oracle, which is also based here in Joshua Tree. Check it out on iTunes. And if you're enjoying this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you'd go out and leave a customer review on iTunes or whatever platform you're downloading it on. Thanks so much for listening to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast. There are so many ways to spend your time, so thanks for spending it here with us. I hope you got some inspiration yourself, and if you did, I hope you'll share that with me and the other listeners on the Desert Lady Diaries Facebook page, or check us out on Instagram. Thanks again for listening.